I'm recording it as well. All right, so to get started, thank you everyone who is joining us at the moment. Whoops. So today, after we had looked at the feedback form on what you guys were interested in learning more about, one of the overwhelming responses was about e-learning. So that is what we chose to have our second webinar so far. So this is e-learning and you, brought to you by the counselors, myself, Mr. Agee, Ms. Broadegum, and Ms. Schwab as well. So really some of the main things we're going to cover over this is discussing the e-learning platforms, all the different ones that students are using to access all of their coursework, and then also going over a lot of wellness tips in general, just because we're all living in this crazy times and this is a complete new online world for all of us. So we're all in it together. And again, so this is our contact information, and if I'm not mistaken, other counselors, once we're done with this, we are planning to post it online like we did with the scheduler quest 1-2, correct?
Correct.
Yep, that's the plan.
That's
But for those of you who are calling in, I'm Mrs. Broadegum. I'm the counselor for A through GE. And then other counselors, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ms. Schwab. I'm the counselor for GF through N.
And I'm Mr. Agee. I have last names O through Z. And Mr. Pfeiffer is not with us on this webinar, but he is our school social worker, and his contact information is included on this as well. Okay, so quick overview. So by the end of this, we are hoping that you will be able to name 3 strategies that you will be able to use to improve your online learning, be able to log into all the platforms you need to complete your schoolwork, describe the 4 dimensions of wellness, and also name 2 strategies for good school/life balance. So we're going to begin with getting to know the technical aspects of online learning. So we're going to go over some of the different platforms that you'll be using. And then after that, we'll get into the wellness aspects of it. And again, any questions that you have along the way, feel free to post those in the chat. And Ms. Broadegum will do her best to moderate that and answer them the best you can. And we'll be sure to try to go at a slower pace so that we don't go too fast and overwhelm you. Okay, so getting to know the tech. So there are a good amount of different platforms that are being used. So it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed by some of it and also be confused with it. Because in all honesty, using Google Classroom and getting onto Admenum was completely new for myself. And I know for both Mrs. Broadegum and Ms. Schwab too, that, a lot of this is new. So just as you all are learning all of it for the first time, we kind of are in the same boat. So we get it. And it has seen that Google Classroom, Admenum, and Alex have been the primary platforms that teachers have been using to put coursework on and have students access. And the most important thing to be able to log into is Clever, because once you're into Clever, that is kind of used as the host site to be able to access all of these different platforms. And it was important to note that I believe it was after spring break, this had changed, but to log in, you need your username or your user student ID along with the @columbus.k12.oh.us to log in as your username. And then you just use your birth date. But it's important that you make sure you follow the format that is listed below. So for example, if your birth date was January 1st, 2003, you want to make sure that you are using those double numbers of 0101 for the month and the day.
Yeah, here I can talk a little bit about it too. So Clever should always be your first step when you're looking at logging into school. It's the dashboard where you can access literally everything else. And we have some screenshots in here in a second that we can show you to walk through. But before we look at that, there are a few different platforms that teachers are using to host events or have a meeting with students in different ways. So just so you're aware they exist, there's Google Hangouts, Zoom, and WebEx, which clearly you guys are familiar with because you're in here right now. And any of those allow you to interact directly with teachers. Mr. Agee, can you go to the next slide?
Yep.
So when you're in a webinar or conference space, you should be acting as though you're in a classroom. So you want to be polite, respectful, and stay engaged. You know, even though it's an online space, it still matters how you talk to teachers, how you talk to others. When you go in, it's always good to just immediately mute yourself as you get into the space, just because background noise, even if you're being quiet, the background noise can actually cut off other speakers. So if you're not talking, it's always good practice to have your mic turned off and then turn it on when you want to say something. If you have questions or concerns, you can always put things in the chat. Most of those platforms allow you to chat directly with the presenter if you have questions. So for those of you who are watching this live with us right now, if you have questions, you can direct a message to me as the host, or you can post chat for everyone, and then I can respond either by typing to everyone or directly back to you. So there's different ways to interact. Some of the platforms even have a way for you to participate in polls, so you can kind of vote for different things. So if a teacher puts that up, just make sure you participate. And just make sure you're always following instructions from the teacher. If they tell you to, keep your camera off, make sure you keep your camera off. If you volunteer to share, ask questions if you need help along the way. But let's talk a little bit about Clever. You want to go to the next one, Mr. Agee? And Mr. Agee and Ms. Schwab, feel free to jump in anytime too.
Absolutely.
Anything you guys want to add? I'm going to make my screen a little bigger. Okay, so going to Clever. So the website for Clever is the clever.com/in/Columbus City. That was on a couple slides ago. That's always your first stop if you're logging into anything for school. So when you go to that website, this is the site that comes up where it says log in with Active Directory. So you click that, go to the next slide. And then you see this screen. So you put in your ID number at columbus.k12.oh.us and your birth date. So just make sure you're using zeros when there's a single digit, and make sure there's a dash between the month, day, and year, just like you've logged into like school computers in the past and things like that. Go to the next one. So when you sign in, there's a huge list of resources on there. This is actually a screenshot from my version of Clever. So I went through and I clicked, there's little hearts that you can click on top of each link, and it'll bring it up to the top. So I put Edmentum, Infinite Campus, Naviance, Google Classroom, Google Drive, the district email, and Alex all along the top. So that way it would be really easy to access everything I need just from one location. So if we're comparing online schooling to in-person schooling, logging into Clever is like walking into the school building. And everything that you need for school is in that building. So I know there's a lot of other things on there, but that's just because the whole district uses it. So there are some resources on there for elementary school and all of that. So if I were you, I would click the little hearts, and you can favorite your top used programs like this. So then from this page, you can click on any of those things, and it will either just log in directly for you, or it will take you to the login screen and you use the same login that you used to log into Clever. So for Edmentum are the assignments that teachers can give you. Infinite Campus is your grade book, same as it always has been. Naviance is the college and career platform, and there's even more resources on there than there were before the schools closed. Google Classroom is like your main hub where teachers are posting how they want their classroom to work, all of that. So that's like actually going to class. Google Drive is where you store and create your files, and then your email is how you communicate with staff. Alex is for your math assignments.
And I would add in real quick, please check your Columbus City School email, the one that's your ID number at columbus.k12.oh.us. You guys have been given more access with that during this time, and a lot of teachers are trying to contact you through that email. So that has been considered your primary email at this point. So please make sure you're checking that email to make sure teachers aren't trying to get a hold of you.
Absolutely.
Good point. Okay. So now moving on to the wellness aspect and e-learning and how those two kind of work together and some of the things you can do to best support yourself. So this is just a picture of the different dimensions, and we're going to focus on the top four: social, physical, emotional, and intellectual aspects. Okay, so physical wellness. Being cooped up inside all day is a struggle to kind of keep yourself physically well because it is incredibly easy to just sit at home and do absolutely nothing. Or even just, sit in your computer chair, either working on your computer, doing your class assignments, or, sitting on the couch, watching TV, doing whatever it is. So it's extremely important that you still find the means to, exercise, whether it's, you can do this inside or outside as long as you do it in an appropriate way. But, just little things too of just making sure that you're drinking enough water throughout the day, making sure that you're hydrated and you're limiting the different sugary and caffeinated drinks that you are consuming. And even as much as exercising 10 minutes per day can make such a difference, whether it's with the focus that it can give you, if you're working on your schoolwork and, work for 30 minutes, take a little 10-minute break to do some light exercise. Even doing that every single day throughout the week, you'll notice a difference. It will help improve your sleep too. And because that is a huge part of managing this isolation, because again, when you don't have to physically wake up to go to school in the morning, it's really easy to stay up till God knows what time and then wake up super late in the day. So one of the best things that we can recommend to getting a good night's sleep is try to stay as consistent as possible with going to bed at the same time every night. The same thing that you should be doing when you have to physically wake up and go to school throughout the school year. Even if you have to set, several alarms too. And again, going with dieting, making sure that you're eating a balanced diet, making sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables and less fast food during the day. And try to, as you want to make sure that you're consistent with your sleep schedule, try to make sure that stay consistent with when you eat your meals throughout the day, because that can really make a big difference too, in your energy levels as well. And I skipped this part, but just the definition of physical wellness is just simply the ability to maintain a healthy quality of life that allows us to get the most out of our daily activities without under fatigue or physical stress.
Yeah, and one thing I like to do, both when we're in the school building and when we're working from home, is sometimes I'll prop my computer up on some books, or like a box or something, and then I'll stand at my desk because I get kind of antsy if I'm sitting in one place too long.
I started doing that as well.
Yeah.
And
It's a good way to get some movement in without, just sitting and staring at your computer for long periods of time.
And I noticed too, a lot of times what I like to do is after I work for a few hours at a time, I just go down. We have a couple workout equipment machines in our basement, and I'll just go on the treadmill and walk or jog for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back up and work for a few more hours, go down, get on the bike for another 5-10 minutes. That just builds back up my energy, back up my mind strength. It just makes me feel like I'm back into, hey, I can actually go through and do this. So even that exercise piece is very important, whether it's just even walking in a place around your house for a few minutes. That just gets your body ready to go.
Yeah, we've been trying to walk once a day, just around the neighborhood, just to clear our heads and get some fresh air and get our steps in. We're trying to count our steps. But getting outside once per day, actually, like studies do show that getting outside, getting fresh air once per day has a huge improvement on your physical and mental wellness.
Oh, just getting some of that sunlight too is a huge benefit. And again, if you're sitting at, your a desk or just sitting at a table and you're in your chair a lot, that can really do numbers on your back. So, making sure that you take those breaks just to stretch too, is really important as well. Okay, so we'll move on to intellectual wellness. So intellectual wellness refers to active participation in scholastic, cultural, and community activities. It is important to gain and maintain intellectual wellness because it expands knowledge and skills in order to live a stimulating, successful life. So, keeping up on your schoolwork is extremely important, and that is something that cannot be stated enough. Just as you need to work out your muscles to keep your body healthy, you need to work out your brain to keep it stimulated and to keep it fresh. So some of the different things you can do, reading for fun, use this time to, maybe find a different topic that you really haven't read much into. And, sometimes you can discover a completely new hobby by reading about something that you didn't even know that you enjoyed. Improving your learning and studying skills, playing different board games, card games, or chess to keep your mind stimulated. If you're into playing musical instruments, keeping up on that, or if you decide you want to pick up a new hobby, learning a new musical instrument as well. And this is one of my personal favorites too, is writing in a journal. Because for one, it just helps to kind of get a lot of the thoughts just out of your head and physically onto paper. It can help you kind of organize everything. And I also think it could be a really cool thing to look back on because we are currently living in a time period that no one has ever experienced before. So I think it'd be really cool to keep a journal during all of this as something to be able to look back on in 5-10 years.
Yeah, and I can talk about the second column here. So I know like the last thing people want to do is like add some studying, but seriously, like if you, especially 9th through 11th graders, if you're looking for something to do, you finished your schoolwork, you can use the time to study for the ACT or SAT, like do a question of the day. There's a ton of different apps for question of the day, or just do a couple practice problems, just to keep your mind sharp and moving. And of course, you can use these tips as we move through the summer, just because I know a lot of different things that we're used to doing might not be available. So I'm not saying like, let's pile more on to what you guys are doing in school. This is just some other things you can do, especially once the schoolwork falls back. College and career explorations in Naviance. So we usually go into English classes to do college and career readiness lessons. Since we're not doing that right now, you can actually access videos and different activities, which can be kind of fun, and some good like self-exploration ideas. Those are all in Naviance, and you log into Naviance through Clever. So check that out. Crossword and Sudoku puzzles are some of my favorites. Watch interesting videos, so not just TikTok, but if you go on YouTube, I put a couple of my favorite sites like It's Okay to Be Smart and Kurzgesagt have a ton of different videos on different subjects, and they're really short. So like if you want to learn about, I don't know, really anything, that's all on there. Virtual college tours, if you go to UVisit and look at their colleges, they have full-length college tours where you can see colleges from all over the country. Just like if you were there walking around, it's kind of like Google Street Image, where you can click around and explore the campus, and there's a guided tour for a lot of them on there. And then there's a virtual college conference going on right now through Strive. They have sessions still going on like every day. I believe you can access recordings for sessions that have already happened. but it's so popular across the country that they're just adding more and more and more topics, and different colleges are having different presentations. So if you're like, oh, I've got like an hour to kill, like, what am I going to do? You can check that out as well. That's all
And
from me on that.
And I know that all of you are always super connected with your phones. So I also highly suggest looking and exploring different podcasts to listen to as well, because I mean, you can literally find a podcast on almost anything and everything. And it's a very convenient way to get a lot of new information just simply by plugging in with your phone. Okay, so we will move on to the next topic, which is emotional wellness. So emotional wellness inspires self-care, relaxation, stress reduction, and the development of inner strength. It is important to be attentive to both positive and negative feelings and be able to understand how to handle these different emotions. So one of the
And
biggest things
some of the resources that are on here, there are links to more details about them in the last couple newsletters that we've sent out. So if you want to read more about these things, we do have links listed in that last newsletter.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So one of the biggest things is just being aware of your emotions and reactions. And what we mean by this is that when you're feeling upset or you're feeling stressed out, really try to be in tune with, what you're feeling physically when these type of emotions arise, so that you're better able to understand, what's kind of triggering them, or sometimes then you can have a better idea of how to regulate them when you start to feel these physical sensations that are linked to these different emotions and reactions that you're feeling. And also, be patient with yourself and understand that it's completely normal to, have these anxious or stressful feelings during a time like this, when so many things are unknown and everything is new and everyone's kind of taking a lot of things day by day. It's normal to feel all of these things. So be patient with yourself and be kind with yourself as well. Thinking before you act, this is something that's always important, of just, really understanding what are possible outcomes of your different actions and really taking the time to be conscious of that and understanding what could be the possible outcome of your decisions. Managing stress, big way to really try to manage that during this time is some deep breathing exercises and meditating. And it doesn't have to be for an absurd amount of time, like 30 minutes. Even if, you take a 3 to 5 minute break just to do some meditating and just take the time to just clear your head and just focus on your breath. That could do wonders for you too, just to clear some anxious feelings and kind of get yourself to be able to focus again and just calm yourself down. This is something that I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with, but having this healthy balance between school, work, and play, because we understand that a lot of you may be taking on more responsibilities with watching younger siblings during this time period, if your parents are working during the day, and that you also have jobs. So balancing your work, possibly having to watch younger siblings at home, and then also your schoolwork, that's a lot. And we understand that, and it is absolutely understandable that you can feel overwhelmed by that at times. But we'll get into boundaries a little bit more in the next section. Another big important thing is connecting with others. Being in this time of isolation, it's really easy to not have contact with anyone else. So, and of course, this is assuming that it is done with a proper social distancing, but, virtual chatting with friends, checking in on your friends, just seeing how each other's doing can be huge for your emotional well-being. And also making a list of what you're grateful for. And this could be something as simple as just at the end of each day or right in the beginning of the day when you wake up, just writing down 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for, that you're thankful for each day, to just kind of have that daily reminder of the things that you're thankful for in this life. And of course, this is always important, but stay positive. keep that positive mindset. This is not going to last forever. We're going to get through this. And, even when things seem pretty bad or you have negative thoughts going into your head, just try your best to replace that with a lot of positive self-talk.
Yeah. Did you talk about the gratitude journal yet?
No, that is where I stopped.
Cool. So studies actually show that starting a gratitude journal is super effective and when it comes to managing anxiety and depression, as well as it's just a really good practice for your mental health. It helps you redirect your focus to things that are going well. Whereas sometimes, especially when we're isolated, it's really easy to let our thoughts go negative and feel like everything is negative. And so having a gratitude journal is a really easy and simple way to actually make a really, really big difference in your internal experience. So just get any journal, any notebook. You can do it on your phone if you want. This way I tell students to do all the time. It's one of my favorite activities. Every day, pick a time of day. Each day set an alarm if you need to, but make it a habit. You write down 3 things that you're thankful for. And it can be anything, but you can never repeat. So for example, if you put, I'm thankful for my family. Great. Now you can't write that again. So sometimes it forces you to get really creative. And so there's always 3 things to be thankful for. Even on the worst day, there are 3 things to be thankful for. One of my favorite examples that I heard somebody say once, like, I'm thankful for my shoelaces so my shoes don't fall off my feet. Like, I'm thankful for windshields so that way it doesn't rain in my face. Like, there you can always find 3 things to be thankful for, 3 things that are worth noting. Just make sure you don't repeat it each day. You can also do that in like 3 things that went well. So taking a moment to acknowledge 3 things that went well today. Because sometimes, and even for me, like I feel like sometimes, especially in this online, I'm like, oh my gosh, none of this is working, and get really frustrated. And so pausing and thinking through, okay, but there are some things that did go well today. It's a little bit, it takes some getting used to train your brain to look at it that way. But it really does make a big difference. If you want to talk, we're always still here for you. So, email us and you can set up a call with us. We can always meet in a webinar space like this if we want to share screen, or we can give you a call. If you think there's something more serious going on, or like you think you would benefit from seeing a clinical counselor, let your parents know or let us know, so that way we can help walk your family through getting a referral for a clinical counselor. We'd be happy to help.
And just to piggyback off of that, this goes back to connecting with others. Trust us when we say that we miss seeing all of your faces at school on a daily basis. So setting up this call just to even stop in and chat and just see how everything's going is awesome for us, and we love doing it.
Yes, 100%. I'm good. Okay, cool.
I was going to say we're going to move on, and I accidentally clicked on it anyways. Okay.
Perfect.
So moving on to social wellness. So social wellness, this refers to the relationships that we have and how we interact with others. Our relationships can offer support during difficult times, and social wellness involves building healthy, nurturing, and supportive relationships, as well as fostering a genuine connection with those around you. Now, given our current circumstances, a lot of that can sometimes feel impossible. That is totally normal. And again, it's something that we are all trying to navigate and kind of learn different ways, different and creative ways to engage with others and, stay connected with our friends and loved ones. So a big thing to focus on is practicing healthy boundaries. So Ms. Barlow, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this goes for, whether we're in, social quarantine or not. Like, it's really important to recognize what you have control over, and knowing what kind of influence you have on others and vice versa. So it's really easy to feel like you're responsible for other people's emotions, that you're responsible for helping other people through something, but eventually it gets to the point where they have to be responsible for their own wellness too. So if you're feeling like, at any point, if you're feeling like helpless trying to help somebody else, make sure you're reaching out to one of us or to a parent or something to help you help them. And just knowing where your influence and identity stop and start.
Absolutely. And if you follow us on our awesome Instagram page, you would have seen this great quote that we shared, but it states, when you can't control what's happening, control the way you respond to what's happening, for that is where your power is. And I think that is incredibly powerful because, and very relevant to these times, because there is so many aspects of life right now that we all have zero control over. But the one thing that we can always do, no matter the situation, is control how we respond, how we react, and what we choose to do with the current circumstances that we have. So I think that's something that's always important to keep in mind. And then, so, understanding what your needs and values are and communicating them with others is really important too. Just because, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear something like that is, understanding that it's okay to say no at times, because at the end of the day, you have to look out for you and you have to do what's in your best interest. And also not criticizing, blaming, or judging not only others, but I think this can be really important to yourself as well, because again, everyone's struggling in their own ways during this, and everyone's kind of trying to find their own coping mechanisms and ways to just, get through each day a lot of times. And, there's no cookie cutter one right way of how to handle all of this. Everyone's kind of figuring it out at their own pace and in their own ways, and that's fine. That's completely normal. And again, it's not our place to judge or criticize anyone else for how they choose to kind of get through things. So just being patient and just being understanding with others is really important during this time as well. And also, we are a huge fan of this, but reaching out to 3 people every day and seeing how they're doing, this is a great way to, one, stay connected, and to also just kind of keep up with what the people you care about are doing in life, just making sure that they're good. And, sometimes you might be the only person that has reached out to them in any given day. So I can promise you that they would be very grateful that you reached out to them just to simply see how they're doing, or just to simply talk for 5 to 10 minutes even. And if possible, at least once per day, try to talk to someone live, whether that's over the phone or video chat or whatever platform you use, who isn't a member of your immediate household. Again, this just goes on to staying connected with others, making sure that we're doing what we can, keep our sanity when it comes to staying connected with others.
And I will throw this out there too. There's a big difference between getting a text message from someone and getting a phone call from someone. A text message means a lot, but when you actually call a friend or someone and actually talk to them, it means so much more when you can hear their voice, or even FaceTime them where you can see their face. It makes such a big difference than, hey, I sent you a quick text. I mean, you took the time to call them and actually talk to them. So reach out to a friend or anyone that way too, not just, hey, I'm going to send a quick text. So think about that too.
Okay. And then, so the last 2 items, playing games together, this is about as perfect of a time as you can have to start getting creative with a lot of these different ways that you can connect virtually, and also playing a lot of, whether it's online games or different board games or puzzles that you can play at home with anyone that you live with your immediate household members. Sorry.
Yeah, like just over the weekend, we'll sometimes like Zoom with some friends, and we'll play a card game, or we'll be able to play something like on an app, but all together on Zoom. So anything that you think you can play like virtually is worth trying to figure out, because it's a really nice way to break up the day too.
Agreed. Okay. Moving on to the next section. Okay. So this is where we'll get into a little bit more detail about the different boundaries and how to kind of use that appropriately and maintain that. So
especially eLearning.
yes. So making a schedule for yourself and sticking to it is one of the best things you can do to stay consistent. And then also making sure that you kind of split things up between the weekends versus the weekdays. Because again, we don't want you to be overwhelmed and, be working constantly, even over the weekends. You got to take time for yourself too. And everyone completely understands that. But again, being consistent is really key to sticking to a lot of these healthy habits.
Yeah, and so like doing the same thing every weekday versus weekend, deciding, okay, like I'm gonna wake up at this time on weekdays, but I'll sleep in until this time on weekends, and then really, really stick to it. Like I'm only gonna be working on schoolwork, from 8 to 3, or during regular school hours. Obviously not full time, but and then knowing, all right, like at 3:30, I'm not doing any more schoolwork. I'm shutting it down. That's important in terms of drawing boundaries around your time and your energy. And then in terms of location, picking a place in your house where you are going to be doing your schoolwork is critical to helping build those boundaries and build routine. So find a place where you will do schoolwork and only schoolwork. And also that's the only place that you do schoolwork. So so as soon as you're finding yourself getting distracted, walk away, go do something else, come back. And then don't do schoolwork in other places in the house. Just pick a spot, that's where you do schoolwork, and that's that. And you'll be surprised how quickly, like as soon as you sit down, or if you're standing at that desk, whatever, as soon as you're in that space, your brain will tell you that it's time to focus. So protect the time when you're in that space that you're not doing other things, and then not doing schoolwork away from that, because our brains are really, really like structure, and they really, really like routine. So they look for anything to tell them what they're supposed to be doing. So if you pick the same spot every day to do the same type of task, your brain will optimize itself for that task at that time in that place. You'll want to make sure you communicate with family members, like, hey, when I'm in this place, please try to like minimize interrupting me, because I'm trying to do my schoolwork when I'm in this place. Or if you see me not focusing on schoolwork, if you wouldn't mind, just remind me that I'm supposed to be doing schoolwork when I'm in this space. And make sure that it's a place where you have everything that you need, so we're not having to get up and move around, find an outlet, or find a place to write something. Just make sure you have everything you need before you get started.
All very good points, Mrs. B.
And I find I have a son myself who is, just like you guys, trying to learn from home and do homeschooling. And I find with him, it's okay to do, hey, I'm going to do an hour to 2 hours of work, and then I'm going to take a half an hour break and maybe talk to a friend, or maybe get on video games for a half hour. That's fine. You don't have to work from 7:30 to 2:30. Set it up.
You
set
shouldn't.
it up,
That's too much.
and set it up where you take breaks. Like, for example, he's very strong in math and science, struggles in English and writing. So we put math and science together. He does them together. Once he gets them done, he gets some free time to do what he wants. Then we come back and we might do writing or we might do reading for a couple hours. And after that, he gets some more free time. And we have it timed out to where, hey, we start usually about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we're done by 2:30. But we have it structured where it's not so overwhelming that it's going to be too hard. It's like he's got those breaks in between to calm down and get ready to go back into doing some work too.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of connects back to how important it is to have like those habit triggers that I was starting to mention. Our brains are so responsive to habit triggers. And so if you learn how to tell your brain what it's time to do, it'll make your life a lot easier. So the three things to use to create habit triggers: routine, location, and ritual. So doing things in the same order every day, in the same place, and for ritual, what I'm referring to is like when the best thing I can think of right now is drinking my coffee, because that's what I do in the morning. So when I'm drinking my coffee, I'm checking my email first thing in the morning. So anything that reminds you what you're supposed to be doing is helpful. So every day, like we said, first thing that you do, you sit down at your computer, you log into Clever, you go to your email, you check Google Classroom, do the same thing in the same order every day. And I think in a second, I think we put together a sample, just schoolwork schedule, but it's up to you to figure out how to incorporate all these different dimensions of wellness that we've been talking about, because you want to make sure that you're hitting all of those with the same level of importance. So making sure that you're making time to eat, making time to have water, making time to connect with people, taking time to reflect and take care of your emotional wellness, exercise, move, get outside. So you'll want to set up your day in such a way that you're addressing all of those different things.
Mm-hmm. And I cannot stress this enough, but do yourself a favor and set limits on some of the apps that you use the most on your phone, probably, and especially social media use. And if you have an iPhone, you can so easily go in to your settings, go to app limits, and set a specific time limit for any of the apps you have, whether it's an hour and a half. And once you reach that limit that you've used it, your phone will automatically disable your use of it until the 24-hour period resets. I'm telling you, it is an incredible thing to have on there, because it will keep you dedicated to only allotting that specific amount of time for it and keeping you off of endlessly scrolling Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter, or whatever else for hours upon hours, because that's not good for anyone, let's be honest.
It's not. And you can do it the other way too. Like I was checking my work email more than I needed to during the day, so I set a limit on my Outlook app on my phone. So that way after a certain time each day, I'm not looking at it anymore and I'm just focusing on family time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
I need to do that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I've checked my work email in the middle of the night before. I need to do that.
Yeah.
All those boundaries. I gotta set these boundaries.
We're not checking our email at 1 a.m. anymore. No more of that.
But again, and this is all protecting your time and your energy. Sticking to your boundaries is sticking to your values and understanding when you need to say no. And this is all for you. It's taking care of yourself. It's all these self-care things that are helping out your well-being in all of these different aspects, because all of these aspects are directly connected to one another and they affect one another. So if you are if you're neglecting yourself physically, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough exercise, well, guess what? That is more than likely going to spill over into your mental and emotional well-being. And then if you're not mentally and emotionally okay, that's probably affecting your social relationships with people. So all of these are interconnected, and maintaining a complete overall healthy lifestyle and healthy individual means that you have to take care of yourself in all 4 of these aspects. So it is important to do a little bit something positive for yourself in each of these domains every single day. And, everyone is different. So, use these specific parameters, but also customize them to, fit your own personal needs, saying you do you, you know yourself best, you know what you need, and trust that, you're the master of you. Would either of you like to add anything before we move on?
I think just consistency is key. It's hard at first to stick to a schedule and stick to those boundaries, but once you start prioritizing all the different aspects of wellness and start incorporating those into your day, it makes a huge difference in your mood, your outlook, everything.
Agreed.
I'm ready. Yeah, okay. So it's just the suggested order of what to do with your schoolwork. We've had a lot of people really confused about, I have to check like all these different things. I think it's important to remember like what each app is used for. So like I said at the beginning, Clever is your dashboard, it's your home base. It's like walking into the school building. That's where you access the things that you need. You log into Clever, check your district email first, just because teachers are replying to you, they're giving you instructions, check that, because I think a lot of people are just going straight to admin and getting overwhelmed by what's in there and don't really know how to prioritize it, don't really know how it's being included in their grids. So start with Clever, click on your email, and then check Google Classroom, just because so many teachers are using that to structure the assignments that they want you to use. So Classroom is like walking into your classroom at school. And then then making a list for the day and completing assignments in Alex or Mentum or wherever it is that teachers are directing you to go. But your first step should be Clever, followed by email and Google Classroom. And then once you're done with your school day, shut it down, walk away. Don't get sucked in to spend too long on things just because you have to maintain that boundary. And just like, when the school day's done at school, you're not still in the classroom working on those assignments. So just make sure that you're protecting your time.
Absolutely. And, again, with this little sample schedule, feel free in between each one, take a little brain break, take a little physical break for exercise, whatever works best for you. Okay, this next slide is just some specific tips, just to help you out in general. So attend as many live events that you can with your teachers and staff, again, just to make sure that you're staying connected, you're having interaction with others, but also making sure that you're staying as informed as possible. Even if you are going in without any specific questions or any sort of agenda, it just, again, it's nice to hear other people's voices at this time. It's great to just, either check in with your teachers or your classmates and see how each other are doing. And then also just, maybe get information that, or answering a question that you didn't even know you had. For
example, we have our office hours that are open, they're open format. So you just pop by, ask questions, hang out, whatever. Tuesdays, Thursdays at noon. Mm-hmm. That's a live event that you could attend.
Every single week. And it's important to be mindful of what you ingest. And I don't mean food, even though it is clearly important to, maintain a healthy diet. And, just as you are what you eat, I think it's really true that you would start to adapt these thought patterns and habits of what you're mentally digesting. So that's what I mean by be mindful of what you ingest, because it's important that you maintain and are aware of what you're putting into your brain. So what I mean by that is, movies and TV that you're watching, the music you listen to, the people you're associating with and talking to, and the books you read. If you find yourself kind of struggling or in a negative mindset, or feeling really stressed out or anxious, if you're watching a lot of sad movies or listening to sad music, or you're talking with others about or talking with others about the same issues, and there is a lot of maybe complaining going on and not a lot of constructive things to help you deal with it, or you're reading sad books. All of these things are things that are going to just perpetuate your sadness and just make it worse. So if you're feeling yourself in that type of state, go find some inspirational video, read something motivating, talk to people that are going to lift you up and encourage you, because again, I think it's really easy to kind of forget that all of these things that you are taking in mentally are creating these kind of subconscious thought patterns and habits that you're not even aware of. And then it's really easy to just get stuck and go down that rabbit hole of getting in a worse mindset and becoming even more stressed or more anxious or more depressed, because you're just kind of feeding your mind with things that are supporting that. So it's just something to think about, and just in case you're ever in a kind of feel yourself getting stuck in a rut, which again, if that is something that you are experiencing, don't be afraid to ask for help. We understand that it was way easier in the building when you can just pop into our office or, ask a teacher to come down and talk with us. So now you do have to take a little bit more initiative and put in a little extra work to reach out to someone, but we cannot stress enough that that's what we are here for. And we love helping you all out the best we can, no matter what. So, if you're feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, feeling sad, send your teacher an email or also reach out to us. We're all here to help.
100%. I know that teachers are ready to help too. We've been getting a lot of emails from people that are feeling overwhelmed or have questions about their schoolwork, or are unclear about what the expectations are. Your teachers are around as well to answer those questions, and they do want to hear from you. And that's what we've heard from teachers over and over, is they're ready to help. So if there's anything you need, make sure you're reaching out to them too.
And I know that this has been mentioned before with the gratitude journal and different things like that, but at the end of each day, even if you do this 2 to 3 times during the week, that's still better than nothing. But name 3 things that went well during your day, because you may think no, I can't even think of one. If you try hard enough, I promise you'll be able to think of at least 3 things. And they can be however small as you want them to be. They still matter, and that's still important. Because one, it helps kind of redirect your attention from any negative thoughts, and also just kind of reflecting on that can kind of help you to think about what you could do differently the next day, even if some things didn't go well. It helps you to kind of brainstorm those different ideas. And while you could think of 3 things that went well, you could look at another situation, be like, okay, that didn't go so well. What could I do better tomorrow or next week to kind of reverse that or improve on that? Self-reflection is a very healthy thing to regularly engage in.
100%. And I think too, it's so easy to get stuck in a rut and stuck in all or nothing thinking. And that's a way to prove yourself wrong. Like when you're saying nothing's working, everything sucks, everything's hard, it really helps your brain realize that, oh, maybe it isn't all difficult. Maybe it isn't all like this. It helps you remember that there's positive things to it, and just shifts your perspective.
All right, good to move on to the next slide.
Yep, I think we're pretty close to the end. Thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. Yeah, I think this is the last slide.
I believe you're correct.
If you are, so just a couple of things like to reach out for if you need help. If coursework is overwhelming and you don't know what to do, contact your teachers first. I think I've seen instances where students were just looking at Edmentum and didn't realize what the instructions were or how important it was, and just spent so much time and emotional energy trying to crank stuff out when really the teachers were saying like, actually, I just wanted you to do this little part, or you could have tested through this. And they would have saved themselves a lot of heartache if they had looked at it and said, this is too much, and reached out to their teachers. And everyone's contact information is on the Whetstone website. So if you don't know how to reach them, you can go through there, or you can go through Infinite Campus. And then we put the help desk phone number on there if you're having any technical issues, questions on assignments, it's teachers. If you need emotional support or extra resources or referrals, your counselors and school social worker, Mr. Pfeiffer, we're all around if you need anything. If you're in crisis though, as always, call that 614-722-1800, or call 911 if you or someone else is in danger. We also put the text crisis line on there. So contact us via email. We also have an appointment form. I should have put that link in there. But we're including that in all of our newsletters. So you can also request an appointment with your counselor on there.
Yep. I'd also like to give a special shout out and thank you to Mitchell Gaunt for giving our Instagram page a shout out on his Instagram page so that everyone knows to come follow us at Braves Counselors.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks to Mitchell Gaunt. So then that concludes our recording. So if you're listening to the recording, you can access the PowerPoint on our website, and make sure you're checking your email for upcoming webinars as well. Email us if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks so much for listening.